calling the borough meeting to order on Tuesday, November the 12th at 7:01, and I'm leading the flag salute today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, here.
Mrs. Baumiller. Here. Mr. Lynch.
Here.
Mr. Maskell.
Here.
Mayor Davis. Here. At this time, I'd like to call Kala Aniski to the microphone.
Oh,
thank you. Hi, my name's Kayla. I'm here representing the LBI Chamber of Commerce and the Kite Festival. Each year during the Kite Festival, we have a mayor's kite battle. This year it was sponsored by, the Beach Haven Kite was sponsored by Black Sheep Studios. You won this year, so I'm just here to say thank you to all the Beach Haven businesses who sponsored the festival and support the festival, and I'm here to present this trophy to you for display in the township building until next year. To the mayor?
Yeah. Wow, that's so exciting. Thank you so much, Lee. This is gorgeous. And I have to say that the Kite Festival, yes. Wait a minute, let me take this off my ear. It doesn't work anyway, so it works. The Kite Festival is absolutely spectacular.
Thank you so much.
We love it. It does so much for the whole island. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, where shall I put this? Here. Right here. Here's an empty seat. You get the vote.
Try this.
I have my votes.
Okay. That's exciting. All right. Cash receipts in the current fund account for the period of October 1st to October 31st were $2,809,124.72. Cash disbursements in the current fund account for the month of October totaled $3,472,355.39. The cash balance in the current fund account as of this period totaled $12,223,829.79. Cash receipts in the water utility account for the period of October 1st to October 31st were $425,473.09, and cash disbursements in the water utility account for the month of October totaled $67,432.90, and the cash balance in the water utility account as of October 31st, 2019 was $3,696,889.06, submitted by our treasurer, Sharon Bowler. And I'd just like to draw your attention to the back wall if you haven't seen already. We've got the mayor's photos rescued from the old Borough Hall, restored, reprinted, and framed. So there, finally, that project is done. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Sharon. We now have the approval of the minutes, and I want to compliment you for getting them done so quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Ordinance 2019-28C, an ordinance amending Chapter 134, Noise of the Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, as it pertains to construction noise. Final reading.
This is final reading, so I'm opening the floor to public comment. If anybody has any comment at this point. We've discussed this at other meetings. Okay, I close the floor. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller.
Yes.
Mr. Lynch.
Yes.
Mr. Maskell.
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-36, capital ordinance of the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, authorizing various general improvements by and for the borough and appropriating therefore the sum of $40,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund of the borough for the purchase of a public works truck with plow. Final reading.
Again, this is final reading. I'm opening the floor for any comments. If anybody would like to comment on this ordinance. All right, I'm closing the floor. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-32C, an ordinance amending Chapter 212-14, Use Regulations, BD District of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to regulate streetscape installation, to require the installation of master plan streetscapes in certain instances. First reading.
This is first reading, so there's no public comment. We have talked about this at other meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-37C, an ordinance amending Chapter 180, swimming pools of the Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to prohibit dewatering from June 15th through Labor Day. First reading.
Again, we discussed this at other meetings, and this is the first reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-38C. I know I spoke with Councilwoman Baumiller. Go ahead.
As far as this ordinance is concerned, it's to amend fees for use of public property. And at this time, I'm not ready to introduce this ordinance. I think that we need more information regarding the fees that we're going to charge for public property and the effect that they have on current camps, like soccer shots and surf camps and whatnot. So at this time, I'm not ready to introduce this ordinance. I just need a little bit more time to research the fees and make sure that we're not outpricing these people that want to come and do camps. And
I have no problems with that. Is everybody okay on the council with that? Holding that off? We have till next summer anyway, so that's fine.
Well, we want to try to address it
As soon as we
sooner
can.
than later, because we do have applications that come in first thing in January. So we will, Jamie and I are going to, we have some work we want to do, and
too.
okay, and we can work on it independently.
That's good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Ordinance 2019-39C, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administrative Code of the Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to amend the required qualifications for the Public Works Superintendent. First reading.
And again, it's first reading, and it's a very minor change. It's just that the superintendent of public works needs a certified license to drive the trucks in the street. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 228, partial piling bond return. Resolution 230, adopting the 2018 multi-jurisdictional all-hazard mitigation plan for Ocean County. 231, returning piling bonds. 232, acknowledging the hiring of Matthew Palmer as tax and water utility clerk. 233, acknowledging the hiring of full-time employees in various departments. 234, returning piling bonds. 235, authorizing the purchase of Edmunds and Associates proprietary software. Resolution 237, budget transfers. Resolution 238, awarding a contract to TC Landscape for the 2018 CDBG handicap sidewalk improvements, 2nd Street and Dock Road. And finally, 239, authorizing award of a professional service contract for the provision of consulting traffic engineer.
Is there anybody on council that would like to remove any of these resolutions for further discussion? No. Does anybody have any comments or discussion? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolutions as read?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
I have a bill list this evening in the amount of $1,468,977.66.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
Motion to approve?
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes. Okay, we're on to public comment. I know we have some folks here that would like to talk. You want to come up first, or?
Come on up.
Please.
State your
fine.
name and address.
My name is Ross Felton. I live at 320 Nelson Avenue. We were looking out the door the other day and noticed that the borough had surveyors across the street from us, next to the skate park that's over there. And we were just wondering why there was surveying being done. My wife asked the gentleman that was doing it, or whoever it was, and he said that the borough was planning to put something there.
The survey was again, it's not written in stone at this point, but we're looking at putting 3 more pickleball courts heading from north to south, taking up about 30 feet in width along the other courts. We don't know if that's feasible or not. It depends on, we're going to redo the tennis courts. That's we're going to have to go out to bid for that. If there is money left over, it's a possibility we'll put 3 more courts on Nelson Avenue. It is not decided yet, but we had to do a survey in order to even get an idea of what it might cost.
Okay. I know I sent an email this morning, and my wife had sent
I read your email. I was going to respond. I haven't. I can respond to you now on some of those issues.
Well,
You had a lot of, I thought, very thoughtful issues in there, and I understand your concern. I do think, though, that if we were to put 3 more pickleball courts there, I don't think it would draw that many more people. I think the number of people that are coming there to play pickleball now would stay pretty much the same. I think it would just give the people that were there more opportunity to actually play pickleball and not sit on the bench. I understand a lot of your concerns. Actually, 70% of the people that play pickleball are residents of Beach Haven. The pickleball people keep a list of everybody that plays and buys a pass. And 70% of the people are from Beach Haven, on our taxpayers in Beach Haven, and it's pretty much the same for tennis as well. This isn't written in stone at this point, but we are looking at it.
well, okay. I should hope it's not written in stone, because I feel that Beach Haven is trying to take the brunt of the pickleball, business
Right, I
versus
understand.
other towns. Have they, my
Yeah.
question was, did they go approach other towns?
Yeah,
see if they
well,
can do something
I'm
else there.
going to talk to Joe Mancini and see if there's anything we can do with them. But I understand your concerns, and your email was very well thought out, and you did bring up a lot of, I thought, good points.
Well, hopefully everyone looks at them, and
Did you send it to everybody on council?
we did.
Okay, good.
We sent emails to everybody. So hopefully everyone looks at it and makes a good decision that we consider to be a good decision.
Well, I know
All right.
it's tough.
All right?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, my name's Kathy McLaughlin. I live at 2404 South Bay Avenue on the corner of Nelson and the Boulevard. At the September 9th meeting, I expressed concerns about the problems that pickleball has already created for our neighborhood. The main concerns were the constant noise from sunrise to sunset, a horrendous parking situation, and safety. After that meeting, my husband and I did follow up with an email to everyone, and we did not get a response. It was extremely disheartening last week to see a surveyor marking an area for the new pickleball courts. I understand what you said, that this is more of a cost analysis, but question why you would even consider new courts when the current situation is fraught with problems. The new design, if the new design becomes a reality, you've chosen to leave very little open space for other recreational activities. I ask if each of you would just go down and look at the markings, you would understand what I mean. I truly believe this, if you were to see this visual, you would maybe have a different perspective. At the September meeting, as you said, there were people who aren't residents, of Beach Haven. And I question why the current courts can't meet the needs of our residents, why we would consider spending taxpayers' money to accommodate the needs of other individuals. I think this is not merely an issue of whether or not Beach Haven can afford to finance additional pickleball courts. Rather, the open space and the recreational needs of a diverse group, I think, needs to be taken into consideration. If you go down and look at the markings and you look, you're saying 30 feet this way, but if you go in the other direction, it's not far from the playground equipment. And it eliminates the opportunity for people to just throw a ball. I think it's really sad that it has to be expanded. I mean, they said their numbers were 2,000 last summer and they expect more. Maryville, Nelson, it's really hard to absorb that amount of people every day from sunrise to sunset. So I ask you to really carefully think before you take away this open space. Even the goalposts were taken out in the fall, and I understand it seems, reasonable. They said it was because the school children wanted soccer posts closer to school. But I think would an extra set of goalposts and nets have been too much for the town to provide when we're taking them away from, once again, Nelson Avenue has to, give something, up. I mean, we'll not get an extra set of goalposts, but we'll spend money on 3 extra pickleball courts. It just doesn't seem reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to come up next?
John Harvey, 211 2nd Street. I've got a couple of comments, but I'll save the others for later. Just to piggyback on this example of this decision and how this decision is being made, I believe is an example of the lack of confidence the community has in the use of the open space that we have. And was one of the reasons that the Green Funds plan was voted down last week. So as we look at this and we make decisions based on who speaks the loudest or who shows up the most, especially with precious open land, the confidence in your ability to utilize the open land does not increase.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else like to speak?
Chris Anderson, 425 3rd Street in Beach Haven, a lifelong resident of the town. I've been attending meetings for the last 2+ years and don't believe there has been one meeting that parking has not come up. In the meeting after Labor Day, you, the council, in your ending comments, all bemoaned the fact that parking was a big problem. You were presented with a list of Beach Haven voters who requested a new ordinance. You chose to use technicalities to dismiss this request. We now have a joke as an ordinance for parking in this town. Excuse me. In the meantime, you have passed many new ordinances and amended many others. Take a look at tonight's agenda. But you continue to stall, ignore the wishes of the town. The question I would like to ask and have answered is why?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, Chris. Number one, our engineer did a study a couple years ago. He looked at all the parking spots in Beach Haven, and he felt that there was adequate parking. It just isn't where everybody wants it. Where I live, it's very hard to park during the day. I've got more people coming to my beach by the Shell than comes to the pickleball. So it's very congested there, but at night it's easy to park. Based on that ordinance, based on our engineers' advice, we lowered the requirement for parking. It was very hard for people to basically do anything because of the parking ordinance. And there's many businesses in town that don't really provide adequate parking, but they were there before there was a parking problem. Basically, we do have on our resolutions, we just approved the authorization to hire a traffic engineer. That traffic engineer will be looking at parking as well as traffic. Here we're coming up with Chris Vernon's site plan. We want to be sure we have somebody that can evaluate the site plan. We're looking at other options. We're trying to look for places we can purchase some land to provide parking. We have a group of people here today that are going to present some of their findings on how to deal with the parking problem. Unfortunately, we're the busiest town on the island. We have the most businesses, and people seem to like to have the businesses here. If we become too draconian regarding parking, it will discourage businesses. And I know a lot of us think, well, do we really need the business? But it does get pretty busy for 6 weeks in the summer. Right now, there's not a parking problem. Right today, I didn't have any problem parking today. I mean, for most of the year, there isn't a parking problem. It is nice to have the businesses open during the shoulder season. I think since I've been on council, the number of businesses that stay open and the activity in town in the spring and the fall has increased, which is positive in my point of view. And but we know that people like to park right where they're going. And if you are handicapped or if you can't walk very well, it is important that you have parking near the place that you want to patronize. But we know that's why we're bringing in this traffic consultant. That's about all I can say.
But in the meantime, we're opening the door to more builders and developers doing whatever they please in this town, and we don't have any control over what they do. I think it's totally wrong. We should have an ordinance that has teeth.
William Burris, 100 Northwest Avenue. Is there a presentation on parking tonight?
Yes. Well, it's
Can we-
not really
can
a
we have
presentation.
public comment after the
It
presentation
isn't a
instead of
presentation.
before?
They are here. I know they're here to talk.
Well, I just asked him. He said he's going to put a presentation on.
What?
He just said he's putting a presentation on. Can we hold public comment till after the presentation?
And it's all part of public comment. You can speak anytime.
The problem is that they're part of public comment. So unless they jump up and come and do this right away, I can't.
So you just said that they're making the presentation tonight on parking. I turned around and asked the guy, "Are you making a presentation on parking?" He says yes. And now we're having public comment.
It's all part of
It's
public
part of the
comment.
public
That
comment.
is part of the
It's
public.
not an advertised.
I'll wait till they're done. then I'll
Presentation.
It's not part of the.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Do I have anybody else that wants to come forward?
John Harvey, 211 2nd Street. At the Surflight Theater, there were roughly 45, 50 questions asked, and virtually none of them were answered either by your choice or by Mr. Malley's partner, who said they couldn't answer them. That doesn't mean we don't expect answers. And so what we've done is one of our engaged Beachhaven members with some time on their hands went through the videos and identified every question that was asked and was unanswered, and I think there's 50 of them. So I'm going to submit these as a matter of public record with the understanding that we would like some answers in a reasonable time frame. I'll leave this with you, Sherry.
What do you, I'm not sure. You can ask it. We're not going to provide you answers after.
I'm expecting it.
Pardon?
I'm speaking to the council, and I'm not expecting it. This
Well,
is a
I'm
council-
trying to answer your question, okay? And so I'm just saying you're submitting questions in, but we won't be
We're submitting
providing.
these questions to
I tell you what, let me
public
finish.
record with the expectation
If I could
that
finish my
answers will be
response.
provided within a
Okay.
reasonable time frame. Thank you.
We won't be responding in writing to questions that get submitted, okay? So just want to let you know that. If you have questions
You
you'd
can
like to-
respond in smoke signals.
If
We
you
expect
can-
answers from this.
This works better if we each speak one at a time, okay? So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Provide those questions. I'll be happy to answer, but this does not work that you submit questions at any time and we provide written answers back to you. That's not how
If
this
the
works.
council decides to defer the responsibility on questions that were asked of them, which you were not even in attendance at the meeting, that's their choice, period. So let me go to point number 2, and this is again on behalf of Engage Beach Haven, not expecting any responses. We'd ask that you rescind the agreement you approved at the last meeting for many reasons, but I'll list several of them. One was the agreement was approved without any public view. Nancy, the question was asked of you, and you said legally you were unable to do that. We've been led by other experts in the field that you could have made arrangements as a council for the public to see the agreement prior to the vote. Point 1. Secondly, as we got the agreement and looked at it, we realized some clauses that are very concerning as they lay on our shoulders. One is that any litigation costs, the loser pays, meaning there's incredible risk there to the borough and to the taxpayers. Any utility relocations, this responsibility, dual responsibility, part on behalf of the borough. Why are we picking that up when this guy's going to make millions of dollars with this development? Secondly, your partner at the meeting said that the redevelopment, that CAFRA will exhaustively review the storm management. That is not a true statement in speaking to CAFRA. And finally, and this is the one I look at all of you, and the affirmative environmentalists, the environmentalists out there, the fact that you exempted this developer from any impermeable or water management clauses that we have in the community, sitting on the bay, sitting 250 yards from the ocean, is absolutely irresponsible.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? Anyone answers?
Yeah.
All right. Brian Wainwright, 209 Christine Ave, Manahawkin. I'm here as one of the members of the committee that was formed to address traffic concerns as well as parking and transportation inside the borough of Beach Haven. This evening, we're here to share some of the ideas that we've come up with as part of the engagement in the community. One of the things that we've learned in conversing with folks is that since the shuttle has changed to not go down any of the side streets, whether it be Delaware or the Marina District or up near the ocean, that's increased some of the traffic. So we're looking at some ways to augment the program and serve the community better. So one of the ideas was to add a trolley to the town of Beach Haven that would be consistent with the town, something more elegant and dressed up versus more of a basic transportation like the shuttle system is. So we have some photographs of some concepts of the trolleys that we've researched. We've gone through 3 or 4 different organizations, speaking to them about their products. We spent some time talking to their customers, and we're down to what we feel is the most representative trolley of what would be something to be proud of in the borough of Beach Haven. This trolley would carry 14 to 16 passengers, could be ADA compliant, and really serve the community well. We have a proposed route to share with the council this evening. The idea tonight is just to share some of the concepts that we've come up with. If the council does like the concept, what we'd like to have is permission to engage the business community to try to raise a third to half of the cost of these trolleys to support the community. Initially, we think that 2 trolleys would be the appropriate starting point, just so that the waiting time for the proposed route would be 20 minutes or less. Conversing with Long Beach Township, they find that wait time, anything more than that, has folks not wanting to wait. The beautiful thing about the trolley concept versus just a standard shuttle system is that this will be part of the Beach Haven experience. So if you ride the shuttle from the north end of the island, you'd want to get off and have your annual trip through Beach Haven via the trolley. So we just think it would add to the experience and be a benefit to the town. So, anything else?
Jay Cranmer, 509 Dock Road. Part of the conversations that we have had as a group is that parking obviously is a problem. It's a problem for 10 weeks of the year. There is no way.
Get a little closer to the mic.
There is no way that any business, all the businesses, could ever provide enough parking to satisfy that 10-week requirement. So what happens here in our community, like any other shore community, is that people rely on their feet, walking. They take bicycles. They take Uber, Lyft, whatever. What they can't do in Beach Haven is have some kind of public transportation system. What we've come up with is a concept that will be an attraction for people to not even get in their cars. It could be people coming from the north end of the island. As they approach town, they could park. We're looking at places for parking for that. Get out of their cars, get into the trolley, take the trolley down to the Marina District, whether they go to Bird and Betty's or Parker's or Black Whale, or they continue on down and go to Tucker's, whether they get dropped off in the middle of town to restaurants, whether they go to one of the motels up on the beach. It's a way to keep cars out of the middle of town, reduce the need for parking lots, and provide public transportation, plus an experience that will get people to bring their families to town, bring their grandkids, get on the trolley, ride around. We think we've seen it done elsewhere in the country, and we think it's a very unique way to add to the whole experience of being in Beach Haven. So, Chick, do you have some comments?
Chick Veazey, have a business at Bay Village, 830 North Bay Avenue. I have driven the town a lot, so we've done several different possible routes for the trolley, starting at 12th Street, looping down the boulevard, trying to stay off the boulevard, going on Delaware Avenue, covering the Maritime District, coming up around the tennis courts, Pearl Street. We proposed one to Nelson, but I'd probably, not ruling anything out, but that loop would take too much time. So if you cross Pearl or Marine or Ocean up to Atlantic, back north, crossing Ingleside, the Seashell, down center, you're getting an aspect of what the town really represents. And then you would come back out to Bay Avenue and back up to 12th Street and loop it. With 2 trolleys, it would probably be about 15 to 20 minute wait times or circulation of the route. With 1 trolley, it's probably like a half an hour. It's like a 2.8 mile route, and it roughly runs about a half an hour per trolley. So several stops, we could have more stops, less stops. That's still up in the air and to be decided. So I have a little map route if you would like to see it.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think we would like to see it.
Yes. Sure.
So Brian, the idea is to piggyback with the Long Beach Township transportation
Yes, I'm sorry.
system?
Yeah, that's an important component. So we would be using their resources, their app, and tying in with their system, which would have a lot of cost benefit. So we would just have the cost, obviously, of the operating the trolley itself, the labor cost, but the infrastructure that they've created to support the communication via the app, as well as the knowledge that they've gained through their years of trial and error, we would take advantage of that as well.
We would utilize their drivers and
Yes,
through that system that's already
that would be our
Provide-
intention. Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Well, and their insurance and that. What about the, what kind of hours do you think this would run?
That's a great question. What were the proposed hours were 3:30 to 11:30, I believe. Yeah, 3:30 to 11:30.
Because most people are on the beach before that, right? What about rainy days, which are maybe, I guess you never know that, so it's hard.
Yeah, we're early in the process. And those are
Right.
some of the things that the township has shared. You don't know anything until you try. So you think you have it figured out going in, and those are kinds of things that will have to be fluid and determine as we go what makes sense.
Brian, did you mention the cost of?
I left that part out inadvertently. So roughly each of the trolleys cost about $150,000, and we would try to raise from the businesses in the community 1/3 to 1/2 of that cost. And that's really what we're seeking tonight is, we think it's a reasonable enough idea to go forward and begin a campaign to see if we can raise any of the funds to support it. And if we can't, then, the council can make the decision whether it's, dead on arrival. But we just want to get an idea that, yeah, we think it's a decent idea. Why don't you see what you can raise to support the project?
I forget, I think you said earlier, Ocean City, do they have these, or Cape May? Can you just give me a reference point of another town in New
Sure.
Jersey, just so I can get a visual, because I've been to the
So
majority of them.
when we started the project, one of the things that we went to was the chamber to say, who is our competition as far as tourism, right? And it was Seattle City, it was Ocean City, it was Cape May. And Cape May has a very similar system that they've done very well with. And actually, downtown Toms River has a system as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, on the money side, the business community tries to do everything it can to help the town, and I firmly believe that we can raise pretty close to $150,000. Right now, as I stand here, I can't give you names, but we probably have 1/3 of that committed already. People who are willing to write a check out and give it to the town. We think that the concept that we've developed would also include annual payments, annual contributions by the business community to help cover the operating costs. So we're not just saying here, do this, it's a pig in a poke. We're saying we're in this together, and we'll do everything we can to get the business community to come up with as much as we can. And we think a 50%, Brian has said 1/3 of 50. I think it's realistic. And if the council can provide the balance of it, I think we have something that's going to help continue to make Beach Haven the community on the island that people want to live in, want to visit, want to come shopping in, and so forth. So,
Could you rent these trolleys out on the off season for weddings and events and that sort of thing?
Yeah, that would be the intention, is to market it as much as we can to generate some additional revenue to offset the costs, whether it's the Historical Society offering tours or weddings and different events. And that would be some of the advantages to the sponsoring businesses, that they would have the ability to, rent it for a cost to use it inside their business. The other thing that I think is important for us to mention is we talk a lot about downside risk. So when we talked to the manufacturers, first we said, are there used ones available? And there weren't, because they're very much in high demand. But they said at minimum, they felt that we would be able to recover 60% of the original investment, as high as potentially 80% if we got to the end of year 1 or year 2 and said, this just didn't work, we need to sell the assets off. So if you look at it as we have 60% of the investment at risk, and if the business community offsets 1/3 of that at minimum or half, it's a pretty low risk endeavor that I think really adds to the community.
Can I ask you a question? So, was there a discussion about creating a hub, like a piece of property or a place in town where you could go to pick it up? Or do you think it would be just as successful if it was just a completely roving, just pick it up anywhere kind of thing? I know both of those options were discussed. What did the committee think of those?
So I think in the ideal circumstances at the start of town, there'd be some trolley start. So there would be a connection for the shuttle system to, stop off and drop people off and board the trolley and enter our system that would bring you into town and head down, Bay Village down Delaware. But ideally, I think for the program to work best long-term, we would secure an asset at the start of town that would be the sort of headquarters for this operation, as well as the first stop in town.
So that would be ideal way to set it up. So if we weren't able to get both pieces running at once, we would just start with you would recommend just starting with the trolleys and then maybe
correct,
creating.
because I one of the things that we thought about at the beginning was that the trolley system would serve the residents of Beach Haven. And the more we talked about it, we said, that's great, and it would be terrific for people who live, wherever in town to be able to get into public transportation and get downtown to places they want to come. And then someone else in the committee said, but there's also the rest of the island, and they'd like to come to Beach Haven. So if we can come up with a focal point at the north end of town for parking, and we've been looking at different locations, and we'll continue to do so, but we're relatively new at this thing. We've only been working on it for a month or 6 weeks, and we're continuing to explore the options. So the first thing to do is get the trolley system in place, and that meets the needs of residents here right in our town, in our hometown, and then we'll take the next step and find a place for parking. We maybe can use something up in the Bay Village area initially.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good point. Might not be the best, but at least it's a beginning. And if it takes hold as we think it will, somehow we'll find some land for parking at the north end of town.
Is the ride free?
We think initially the ride should be free. You want to get people to use it. It may be after the first year some nominal charge. I don't know. That's something to be looked at. But if the operating costs are as low as we think they are, because we're piggybacking on the township system, and if the business community continues to fund an annual operating fee, if you will, there may not be any need for a charge. And I think that would be beautiful for this community.
I suggest that if you get the support of council tonight, that maybe you have a further discussion with Long Beach Township. That I know that they've teamed up with the Long Beach Island Chamber to handle their donations and sponsors and things like that. I think taking donations and creating sponsorships is a sticky thing for a municipality to take on. So it might be a conversation to continue with Long Beach Township, how they're bringing in their sponsors and their donations and their advertising, and maybe team up with them for that aspect as well.
Yeah, so the good news is I sit on the board of the LBI Chamber, so I'm intimately knowledgeable of how that all works. And actually, we had our board meeting this evening. So just some of the things that we also didn't discuss that would help defray the cost. The internal...
Brian, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to ask you about advertising.
So that's where I was headed to. So I have some figures that for the shuttle system. Now, this is just a reference point. I'm not making any commitments here, but the intention would be to do an internal monitor that would have looping advertisements that we would sell. That revenue is about $35,000 to $40,000 a year for the shuttle system. So that's an outside company sells it and manages that whole process. And we can look at how we manage that here. But there is additional opportunity from advertising, and there is a system that's sort of been developed that we can piggyback
Yeah,
off
I don't want to recreate it.
or join. So that's the nice thing.
Sherry, to point to your question, if there was a particular hub, which there's not now, like I do on the map, have 8 or 10 different points that proposed could be stops. And what's different than the LBI shuttle, which would run from the north end to Beach Haven, through Beach Haven and to Holgate, but this would have specific stops, not just flagging down. So we would coordinate how to, people would know approximately the time and where to get to ride the trolley.
Are those the X's?
The X's are, proposed. Yeah. I mean, it could all change. We could add more, take some away. But yeah, the X marks the potential stops.
Chair, will that have an ADA ramp that goes down for people who are not able to use the steps?
I think we're looking at everything that is, ADA conformed, yes.
Hi. Steve Steiner. I'm also on this committee, and I live in Beach Haven on Amber Street, 521. I've done a lot of work in other areas, theater work in other areas. I've worked extensively in Laguna Beach, California. Now, the question came up about other shore communities here. on the right coast, but I've also worked on the left coast. Laguna Beach has an incredibly successful trolley system, and it's really what made me think about it, about doing something like this in Beach Haven. It's very, very successful. It's free. However, and their parking problem in Laguna Beach, California, makes our in-season parking look like our out-of-season parking. It's that bad in Laguna Beach. And so they actually have parking lots outside of Laguna Beach, California, where people park and take the trolleys in and up and down the coast road and into the up into the mountains. It's an amazing system. They pay for parking, the trolley remains free. So down the road, that could be something that might work as well, keeping the trolley free and at the same time, having paid parking outside of town for those people that are not the people that live in Beach Haven that we're talking about serving, but the people that want to come to Beach Haven, park their car like at 12th Street or 14th Street, or if we can get something like that as part of this down the road. And eventually, then that might become paid parking while they use the trolley around the town for free. And there's so many ways for us to make this work, but it's such a great start to a solution to a problem that people have been complaining about for years, and all of a sudden, here's an opportunity to take a big, big bite out of solving it.
Thank you. Yes, you can come up.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Pepino. I live at 223 2nd Street. And I have a few points to bring up. As Mr. Steiner alluded to, there were several issues in terms of the parking. One is, how do the people or the tenants or the renters during high season get from the causeway, come all the way down to Beach Haven? They need a place to park their cars because for the most part, they're going to be here for a week. That whole issue, I don't see is resolved by the shuttle. So that issue still has to be worked out and resolved. That's number one. Number two, the other parking issue is once people are here in Beach Haven, whether they're residents or whether they're renters, they still have to get from their rental to places around town. And this is a wonderful idea, if implemented, for people to be able to leave their car at their home and take the shuttle and get from point A to point B, to go out at night, to go utilize the restaurants, go shopping, etc., etc. The other issue that I don't see a solution or how the shuttle is going, the shuttle could possibly help this problem, is that you have people, not necessarily on the ocean side, because people who are renting on the ocean side, they pick up their beach chairs and they go to the beach. But a lot of the people who are renting on Bayside, and I've seen this, I have a porch and I sit outside on my porch and I see it. They take their cars from their homes that they're renting and they come over to the ocean side and they park their car. I see them. They get their coolers out and their beach chairs and they are taking up the spot. I'm on 2nd Street. 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And they're not going to the beach just for an hour. They're taking up those spots all day long. So how can we utilize this idea and make it a bay to beach shuttle? Because maybe we can resolve some of the issues with taking up a parking spot on a residential street for hours while they sit at the beach. And maybe this can also help that problem. I would implore the people on council to maybe take a look at that, because I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it too,
Oh, yeah. it's
Mayor
like-
Davis, on Second
Yeah,
Street.
you can't park in front of my house. Well, that's good. That's a good thought. And, I think, the people, the shuttle, the idea was to run it later in the day. But maybe we can rethink that and think about how we could utilize this to get people to the beach and back to their homes on the bay side.
Right.
It's not a bad idea, Nancy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else that wants to present any more presentation? No? Yes.
The only thing I'd like to add is this will be a multi-prong approach trying to solve the parking issue and the transportation and the traffic. And we're not declaring this as one and done by any means. It's just one idea that we think we can implement quickly and maybe get on the ground for next season. Obviously, acquiring land and improving it for parking and all that takes time. So I just want to make certain that the committee is not presenting this as sort of a one and done idea. It's just one approach that we can implement quickly. That's all.
Right. The only really concern that I have is the operating costs, because I know that township struggles with the operating costs and in the past have taken a substantial loss, because of the operating costs. So I think for me to be fully behind this, I would need to see a little bit more of like a factual, like numbers, what the operating costs that you estimate that this is going to cost us.
Yeah, we can come back with that.
I love I like the idea. It's just that's the only thing concerning me is to get behind this. It's not just the purchase of it; it's the additional operating costs.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot more shuttles than the trolleys. We're covering a lot more ground and employees. And actually, I know the numbers well, and I can speak to it. But we can definitely do our homework and present that.
Okay.
Yeah, like as I said, the only goal for tonight was we're open to the idea. Go see what you can get from a support from the business community. That was the only thing we're shooting for tonight.
And I think we're trying to utilize a partnership with the township as well, which might help with that.
I think our business would support the shuttle with you, Brian. What I won't support is you got a little X here on my property at 12th and Bay. That ain't happening. I mean, I have a 10-year lease on it. I'm going to buy it. If we can ever get the environmental cleaned up on it, I'd like to get our dog studio going there that we got approved at the land use board. And we'd like to do a takeout for our restaurant group with the other section of that. So I don't think that piece of property, I know you're talking about it. And you've been talking to Elmer and Chuck and all that, but I'm not letting it go. I have a long-term lease and we're staying there. We're going to use it as soon as we can. If they stop digging holes in the concrete floor and find the oil cans underneath, maybe we could get something done here. But I started building and I can't finish building. I'd love to be able to do that. In the meantime, I'm still paying rent. So, is there a parking solution yet, or has anybody figured out parking? Because one of the redevelopment issues that we're concerned about is Pennsylvania Avenue, all the parallel parking that our customers seem to use to go to the Whale and Parker's and Bird and Betty's is all now being converted to perpendicular parking and apparently restricted for uses with the new proposed development of Morrison's. That's unfortunate because I think Pennsylvania Avenue, that section between Dock Road and the Marlin Tuna Club, is where most of our people are able to find parking, get parking to come to our establishments, and that's all going to be gone. So, we need parking solutions. I don't know where we're going to get them, but we need to find something soon. Thanks.
John Harvey, 211 2nd Street. First of all, I think this is terrific. Yeah, you said something earlier, Brian, which I think is a question that we're all asking, which is how big is the problem? How are we going to scale the parking problem? And I think this is a solution. I think under any scale, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, but we still have questions. In traffic, a big part of it is simply the relationship between available parking and parking demand. and we do not have a grasp for that. And we have some moving targets. We have the Morrison's project where we still don't have answers on hotel room occupancy. There's still questions on parking. We're giving him, it appears, a waiver on off-street parking. So is part of the committee's scope to really understand the scope of the problem. Solutions like this, like you said, you got to do it. But the solution really the solution set has to be evolve around how big the problem is. And we don't know that. I don't think anybody knows that. So do you see that as a scope? It's sort of like, I think there was an Einstein quote, if you had an hour to solve a world problem, what would he do? 55 minutes, he'd do what? He'd think about it. In 5 minutes, he'd act. So that's my question.
Yeah. So again, we're not here declaring we have all the answers. I think the approach would be to continue to present ideas, see if we can gain public support for them, and see what the impact is as far as getting cars off the road and reducing or solving part of the parking problem. So, I know all the volunteers on the committee are committed to stay in this as long as it takes to make a difference. That's the bottom line. Everybody's donating their time, hoping to make a difference for the community. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come and speak? Yes.
Lori Anderson, 1001 West Avenue, Beach Haven. You mentioned you're going to have a traffic study done.
There is Mr. Vernon has done a traffic study relating to his property. We're hiring somebody to evaluate the parking and the traffic. We don't want to take his word when he says, well, there's no problem, we want another set of eyes to look at this, somebody that's certified to do this.
I think you ought to wait till next summer to get them down here in the thick of July and August. Send them down 2nd Street, Dock Road, so they can really see what it's like.
We know this is an ongoing situation. We're not going to just say, there's no parking problem now.
Yeah.
So,
and even though we only have a parking problem 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks in the summer, it's a legitimate problem. And the people that live in that area, it's horrendous. And to say that it doesn't matter the rest of the year, shame on you guys in a way, really. And get that traffic study done when this person can really see what they have to put up with down there, and the volume and the dangers and.
Can I just clarify? The traffic study that was done during the summer months, and the consultant that we're hiring is going to be reviewing and looking at the traffic study that was done to make sure that it is proper. So we're not conducting our own in the off season. He's reviewing what has already been done, which was in season.
And as part of the site plan process before the planning board, he'll review to make sure that it satisfies all the RSIS, all the state standards, all the standards for parking and traffic. That's what they do. They'll review it. And that's a way, with the borough having somebody on board as their traffic engineer, let's just like to have a planner that lets them give their own independent view of those reports.
And in all fairness, can we get a second traffic study for comparison? I mean, you shop contractors and you shop your refrigerator and your washer dryer. This is pretty important.
That's what this is. This is the borough having their own person.
Mr. Vernon had one done, right?
Right, but the borough is retaining their traffic engineer to review that and to analyze it for purposes of compliance with the redevelopment plan and state law.
I still think a second opinion wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Okay, that is the second opinion.
Well, then get a third one.
Okay. All right.
Sanderson, 3rd Street in Beach Haven. I am directly affected by that in the area, directly. It's awful. I just heard a statement by Sherry saying that it was done in the summertime, Mr. Vernon's study. I looked quickly at the sheet and I saw tons of September dates. A lot difference in September to July and August.
What sheet are you referring to?
What sheet?
I'm sorry, what sheet are you referring
I can't
to?
remember what it's called, but part of that study, and there were tons of September dates on that. I don't have to.
I haven't even seen this.
The traffic study, okay.
Never even saw.
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to.
Barb Kona, 100 Northwest Ave. I wanted to ask, was there any public parking given to the Hotel LBI project?
I think you can answer that. I think what she's talking about is if we go from diagonal parking, from parallel parking to diagonal parking, utilizing Mr. Vernon's property.
Right. It
where,
increases the number of spaces.
right, exactly.
But
It
was
increases
there,
the amount of spaces.
was there any space along Second Street or Pennsylvania Avenue that is being dedicated to that business?
I believe so.
Nothing that was public?
There's
Okay.
no dedicated public spaces.
Okay.
Right.
Because that's the rumor going around, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So we have a traffic consultant that the borough is hiring, and Mr. Vernon has one. We have one. I guess to put everybody's minds at ease about counts, I'm sure there's sufficient counts, and it's a science. We have counts, and we're happy to share them. I like the idea that we're going to determine what the real parking need is. I hope that's what the goal with respect to hiring a traffic and parking consultant is. Look at what's being done and what parking does it require, because right now we have a parking problem already. See, people want to say it's 8, 9, 10 weeks a year. I don't agree that that's the case. I think it's more like 3.5 months. But some of the approved projects that are coming are going to make a big impact, and we have to be ready for that. Plus, I think we've got some sidewalk issues and lots of pedestrian issues. There's one area in town between Parker's and Bird and Betty's. It's a two-way street for one block, Dock Road, right from West Avenue into the square. It's dangerous. It's dangerous because the sidewalks aren't really wide enough for pedestrians. People wind up being in the street. And these are the things that I hope that we can take a look at and figure out, what possible solutions could be there for that. But having somebody do a citywide or a borough-wide parking analysis is a good idea. We need to know what the numbers are and not rely on the developer or on a parking ordinance that just doesn't get us there, or on, what people who are looking at the project and asking questions, have been told by engineers that are also looking at this project. So we've got a problem, and I'd like to be part of the solution if we can. We'll share the information that we have.
That would be wonderful. It's like Lori Anderson said that a third parking study in the pot with somebody looking at all of them would be helpful.
I think that's good.
Thank you.
John Harvey, Sherry, just to follow up to what you said about the study being done in the summer months, and I think this will help reassure at least me, maybe some others, is I did see the meters going up in June. I did talk to people, and when you say summer months, my understanding is that by 4th of July, they were pretty much done with their study. Summer months, but certainly not when the community is cranking. Do you have the dates when the study was done?
No, but we were part of the installation. They had to come to us let the police department know. So we know when they went up, and I haven't seen the parking study, so I can't really tell you, but we were part of the installation process, so we know that they were up.
Well, I mean, you agree it wasn't July or August. It's got to be some questions.
No, they were up. They were up.
It was during the summer.
Yeah.
That'll all be in front of the planning board.
Any other people that would like to speak?
I got a question.
You may come again, but you need to stand up. I'm sorry. It's good exercise, right? Yeah.
Is it okay to ask what Plan B was for?
To my knowledge, there is no Plan B. The only thing we were presented with was a Plan A, and that's what we looked at, which was the redevelopment plan. So I have no idea what Plan B is.
Anybody know what Plan B was?
I can only tell you, I know there's all this chatter about, like, we want to know what Plan B is. It's simply that the developer planned to close on the property no matter what, and would do something to make money on the property. I know he can make a lot of money flipping it and putting rack storage and condominiumizing the marina, which is why we've been negotiating for all this time to preserve that, to make sure that that does not happen. But I know we can do that. I don't know. I don't have any specific plans. We're negotiating a project. We're not also negotiating, well, what happens if this doesn't happen? We're negotiating what his plan is.
I did talk to him and I asked him I did ask him what is plan B. And he said, I really only have the one plan. I really want this to happen. He said, but if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't get through Capron, if it doesn't get through, the site plan studies, he said, I have somebody I know that will buy it and put condos there. He said, but I have to study this. He said, he said, I need to really study it. But he said, I'm really just not thinking in terms of not getting the approval to build the hotel and keep the marina. My feeling is I really would like, I'd hate to see this shut off with condominiums all around it on Pennsylvania Avenue and 2nd Street and the Slips condominiumized. And that's the easiest way to make money in that spot.
Would you guys, as a redevelopment,
we'd have no control over it. It would fall within our zoning, within our normal zoning. We would have no control if somebody came in and if he flipped that property over to somebody and they decided they wanted to do that, we have nothing to stop that from happening. There's no way we could stop that from happening. And that's my whole reason for voting in favor of the redevelopment is to keep the marina and keep the access available to the public. That's it. I mean, it's like he wants a hotel, we want a marina. This way we can keep the marina hotel.
Well, he can have a hotel. It's just that he wants a liquor license with it
well,
too.
Of course, because that's where most of the money comes from. And I mean, those of you in the audience, Mr. Burris and so forth, that have restaurants know that you make a much greater profit on the sale of alcohol than you do on the sale of food.
Yeah, that's kind of
Mr. Mallett, just to be clear, Ms. Kona asked about proposed public parking spaces. And,
right, about street parking.
Right, and I believe that there is. I just want to be clear.
No, there are.
Right.
The question is, are they dedicated? Is the street parking dedicated to the project?
Okay, because I guess
they're being counted. So in a site plan review, parking can be counted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's different than saying you can't park here unless. Okay.
Okay. So
right.
He is offering, the development does have proposed public parking spaces on
right.
Pennsylvania Avenue because
right.
a third of the property is Morrison's Marina and then 2/3 is the public right of way. So
right.
he's designating those parking for public after a certain hour.
Right.
Right. So that is public. He is using.
Thank you for clarifying that, because what I was asking was, is any public parking, to rephrase, counting towards his requirement?
No.
Oh, I see. No, he's counting it in if you add that parking, but he's within on his property.
So let me answer this way: the redevelopment agreement doesn't fix all of that. It's all a function of his site plan approval and how that gets approved. Okay.
So it's to be determined.
Well,
is what you're saying.
It's like, it needs to satisfy what the redevelopment plan is. Okay. And with and I don't claim to be 100% familiar with the specifics of when you got right of way parking and you've got land that is his land.
I think what
it's
you're
a question of what was public parking before.
Help me out here.
The parking on Pennsylvania Avenue is not counting towards his parking. He meets the parking requirements as per our current parking ordinance. These spots are not included in that. I think that's what you're asking.
But then Pennsylvania Avenue would be designated parking, which it is not currently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Designated in what way? What do you mean designated?
In other words, I don't think that there's any striping on Pennsylvania Avenue, to my knowledge, currently for parking. So people are not currently legally parked on Pennsylvania Avenue. So it will be striped. So that's a new change. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm troubled by the Plan B thing. The applicant stated he had a Plan B. He presented his Plan B to the Marlin Tuna Club. You know, this was, I guess, okay, but we're misrepresenting stuff.
We're not
Well, we are,
misrepresenting.
because we said that this project couldn't be developed on Pennsylvania Avenue, and that's what he told everybody, and that's what the mayor was telling everybody. And then his consultant comes up, and the first question Jamie says is, can this project be built on Pennsylvania Avenue? She says, oh, sure, that's an option. He said he had a plan B. Now he's telling her he doesn't have a plan B. This is ridiculous. He's told the Marlin Tuna Club what Plan B is. I like Plan B.
Well, I never heard of
Let's
you.
do the
The
Plan B.
borough-
Better for everybody.
The borough has a redevelopment agreement with this company to build the hotel project that I know you've all seen a number of times. So that's the agreement that we have.
Right, and
That's what it
and
says.
when we adopted
Now,
that agreement, we
it's
adopted the resolution.
You don't undo it and call them up and say, hey, listen, we want to forget that contract that we have with you. We want to know more details about another plan that you might want to do. I understand people don't agree with it. I get that, but this is what the agreement is we have with them right now. So that's kind of that's kind of over now. Now we move. He's going to make application for site plan.
You don't,
It may be get litigated, but this part of it is over.
you don't know? Can I talk now? I waited for it.
No.
Okay, but so we have a resolution, and it's 2 in favor and 2 against, and then the mayor says, well, everybody knows what my vote is, but I really want you to make it smaller. So I don't know what that means, but there is a plan B. And let's not act like there isn't one, because he has one. That's all I'm trying to say. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else like to come forward and speak? All right, I'm closing the floor to public comment. And now I have last remarks by council. Would you like to start, Chuck? Start down at your end?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Tom?
First of all, I'm looking at another police activity report, and this is an excellent report as always. Every quarter, they come up with some fantastic numbers here, and I think that they are really an outstanding group of policemen who do a great job within the town. So if you get a chance, take a look at this. This is a very, very important thing, and it gives you a 3-year run. So I think it's a very, very important thing to do. The last thing is I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Okay, and be safe out there. After the snow today, be safe.
Thank you. Dan?
I don't have too much tonight. Just thank everybody for their comments, and if I was quiet, it was because I was listening. So it's always nice to hear back from the public, or feedback, because I myself, I don't get to see many of you guys until we're here. So other than that, stay warm and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Jamie?
First, I just wanted to say that we had a beautiful Veterans Day ceremony this past Monday, and it was great to see the school children from the Beach Haven Elementary School come out and support the veterans. They actually had an opportunity to come up and shake their hands and thank them for their service, which I thought was great. And there's not many places that an elementary school can walk to a Veterans Day ceremony safely, and it's the community that we have here that's very special, and we're very lucky to live here. We've had a successful fall season. I'm looking forward to a successful holiday season as well. It's very popular here in Beach Haven, and maybe in the future we could use our possible trolley for the holiday season. I also want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Felton and Mrs. McLaughlin for coming and speaking concerns about the Nelson Park. And if anything, I would like something there for the children. If first, that's goalposts for the springtime. They are they're at Walsh Field right now. We were using them last night, my daughter and I and 3 other boys from the elementary school. But I appreciate you coming and speaking for your concerns, and I also agree with you on that as well. Other than that, that's all I have to say. Have a happy Thanksgiving for everybody as well.
Thank you. I don't really have much to say, but I'm very excited about this trophy. And on a light note, I think that I don't know how we won it, but I think it's great we did. And the Kite Festival is just wonderful. And Beach Haven's a wonderful community, and thank you all for coming out. Jamie's right, it was really special having the school children at the park, and it just means a lot for them to understand how important it is that we have people that go out and defend our security in this country. And so thank you very much. We do have a great police force, and thank you guys in the back, and thanks, Tom, for bringing that up. So have a nice Thanksgiving as well. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Meeting adjourned.